IVM.
This episode of Know Your Kanoon was recorded outdoors, so please excuse the quality of audio.
Welcome to Know Your Kanoon. This is Amber from AM Nana Ventures, and continuing our discussion on crimes against women, specifically under the new Criminal Law Amendment Act. We discussed 354 and 354A, which are dealing with sexual harassment and outraging the modesty of a woman. Now let's continue our journey and see the rest of the sections and what their intentions are. So now we'll come to section 509 of the Indian Penal Code, which talks about insulting the modesty of a woman. I had earlier spoken in detail about how outraging the modesty of a woman has nowhere been defined in the law, but specifically Supreme Court has said that the term modesty has been attached to a woman by the fact that she was born as a woman, and it need not be expelled or spelled out specifically in law. Thus, continuing with the same thought process and the same intent of the section, let's look at this section 509. The act states that an act which is done intending to insult the modesty of a woman, which may not necessarily involve any physical force, is to be punishable by section 509 of the IPC. Thus, this section specifically intends to deter any kind of aggression into a woman's modesty, whether by any word, gesture or act, or by intruding upon privacy of such a woman. Also, this section is known as a Eve-Teasing section. There are a lot of blogs you can read online where by typing Eve-Teasing section you will come to know of the same. Any person who commits an offence under this section shall be punished with simple imprisonment for a term which may extend up to a period of 3 years along with fine. So, as I spoke about insulting outraging the modesty of a woman, insulting the modesty of a woman involves doing actions which might not be physical in nature and where physical force might be involved. In the previous sections of 354 and 354A, we had specifically spoken about how force is being used and physical and criminal force is to be applied. As we all know, there's always been a speculation about what is Eve-Teasing. This section namely said Eve-Teasing section because a lot of people pass comments, a lot of people play music, a lot of people try to act in a separate way where it's not something which is conducive for behaving on the prescribed norms in public, where they try to, and that's only in relation to women, where they try to whistle, where they try to wink, where they try to do gestures. We see in the movies all the time how men are portrayed trying to lure women or trying to talk to women or trying to get attracted towards women or draw a woman's attraction. All those actions fall within section 509 of the IPC. In outraging the modesty, this particular section can be combined in case Eve-Teasing is happening under section 509 and it is also accompanied by physical force, and by which I mean there have been sexual overtures, there have been acts where her hand has been held, there has been some physical force which has been applied to a woman, then it is punishable by both the sections. The guy can be charged under both the sections, and 354A can have a wide ambit to cover the penalties and also punish the individual for both the acts. Ingredients to section 509 which any woman can use for her defense are that there should have been an intention to insult the modesty of a woman. The insult must be caused either by intruding upon the privacy of a woman or by making any such gesture, sound, uttering words or exhibiting objects which cause her to feel insulted or which outrage her modesty. Here is that there has been no physical force involved in outraging the modesty of a woman. It's only an act which is taken into consideration and where the intent is derived from. After section 354A and 509, there is section 354B, which is also labeled as the section which talks about stripping, which is disrobing a woman. The Criminal Law Amendment Act got this section as well enacted. This particular section states, if a man disrobes a woman, which is in terms stripping, then he shall be punished with the imprisonment which may be for a period of 3 years or which may even extend to a period of 7 years coupled with fine. Now, the section reads in the following manner: assaulting or using criminal force to a woman or abetting any such act with an intention to disrobe or compel her to be naked. It's very specific, clear and crisp in terms of telling what this section is all about. Interestingly, what one has to see is the section only talks about stripping, and the stripping has to be with some amount of criminal force which is being applied. Criminal force could be at gunpoint, criminal force could be at some other threat which has been induced into her mind that she would be murdered, killed. So it could be of any nature which causes her some kind of intimidation, which causes her to strip or disrobe, or an act whereby somebody forcefully tries to strip, or in a group they try to strip the woman, causing her to get naked or be without clothes in that particular situation. The section has to be seen as that it's very gender specific. It means that only a man can be punished under this section. What is to be seen is what does the definition of man cover under the Indian Penal Code, and a man and a person, that's the difference. So a little bit of lacuna in law there, but the general intention of the section comes out to be that any individual who does this act shall be punishable, but that individual has to be a man. There has to be use of criminal force or assault, and there must be an intention to disrobe the woman or compel. The acts which are done on the mobile phone, which you might have seen, that people forcing a couple together who are sitting together in a private moment, having a chat, etc., are harassed by people where they are told to strip and perform obscene acts. Under those situations, this section perfectly applies. The series of criminal law amendment acts are section 354C, which talks about voyeurism. Voyeurism is a major problem in India. The WhatsApp, social media, etc. has such groups where you can find numerous amount of videos which have been clicked, whether it is related to women, whether it is related to a particular accident, whether it is related to an incident, which are obscene in nature and have been recorded quietly. The law was very silent on these earlier before the Criminal Law Amendment Act, and voyeurism came into picture just after the act got amended. Also, one has to see that voyeurism also extends to all such areas, which is your public bathrooms, private bathrooms, whether you're in a retail shop, in a restaurant, in a government building, apart also showrooms, clothing stores, everywhere possibly where there is recording obscene acts and disseminating the same. Now, what does the word voyeurism generally mean? The word voyeurism means appeasement derived from observing the genital or sexual acts of others, usually secretly. The provision which is there for voyeurism under section 354C is divided into two parts. When a man is engaged or a person is engaged in capturing the image or watching of a woman engaging in some private act, and second is when the person is disseminating or spreading such images or videos which have been captured by him through any medium. So the act of recording specifically is punishable separately, and the act of watching that particular act or hiding in watching that act as we speak is also punishable separately. Which is of secretly watching a woman engage into an act or watching her genitals, or by hiding oneself and watching the woman engage into some private act, is punishable with a imprisonment, which may be even extended to a period of 3 years, along with the fine. The second offense, which is of recording and disseminating the information, is punishable with imprisonment, which is not less than a period of 3 years. It may also extend to a period of 7 years, along with fine. The key ingredients of voyeurism as we speak are: the accused must be a male, again gender specific. He must watch or capture the image of the act which is being performed. The woman whose images are captured must be engaged in some private act. The circumstances must be such that she has the expectations of not being observed by the perpetrator, and the accused disseminates the image. Now, highlighting the clause, the circumstances must be such that she has the expectations of not being observed by the perpetrator, means that it has to be in a private, closed place where she is comfortable, or where the person is comfortable in doing those acts. And in case where it's happening out of those confined boundaries or places which are reasonable and determined by law, then in those circumstances this section would not apply. So specifically, as I reiterated, in case somebody puts a camera in your bedroom, tries to record you in a washroom, tries to record you in a hotel room, etc., all these other places which is public places, markets where you're using a washroom, a loo, where you do not expect someone to intrude your privacy, this act will particularly apply. Coming to the last of the series of sections under section 354, which is section 354D under the Criminal Law Amendment Act. This section talks about stalking. The term stalking generally means the act of following or trying to contact despite disinterest of a woman. Does it merely means that any individual trying to contact a woman through email, phone, mobile, any electronic medium, or any other such platform tries to harass her or attempts to contact her shall be punishable by this particular section? The section is divided into again two offenses. Firstly, where a man follows or contacts or attempts to contact a woman repeatedly despite her clear indication or showing of her disinterest. Second part is where a man monitors the use of internet or email or any other electronic communication by a woman and tries to reach her there and cause her discomfort. For the first offense which we spoke about, which is trying to establish contact, the punishment prescribed is imprisonment for a term which may extend up to a period of 3 years with fine. The punishment for the second conviction is also up to a period of 5 years with fine, which is minimum. Now, what has to be seen in terms of stalking is all those men who try to send random Facebook requests or different requests from LinkedIn, etc., trying to pitch into women and have a chat with them who are not interested to have a conversation. Please resist from doing all of this, trying to call, send messages. In case if the woman is not interested, you could be holed up for stalking and vice versa. The key ingredients to this section are the accused must be a man, I'll repeat it again, and victim must be a woman. There has to be an attempt made to follow or contact a woman. There has to be monitoring of the woman's digital media accounts, emails, or any other electronic communication. And all of this has to be topped with the fact that the woman is disinterested in establishing contact through any of the means which have been mentioned here. Continuing our series on offences against women and Criminal Law Amendment Act, I shall be taking up acid attacks as a separate topic in our upcoming episode where we talk about section 329 and the plight of acid attack victims in India and what are the recourse available to such victims out there.
Thank you for listening to Know Your Kanoon. Catch Know Your Kanoon every week on the IVM website or the app or anywhere you get your podcast from.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you enjoy listening to content on the IVM Podcast Network, let me tell you about a couple of things that you should check out this week. On our Kannada podcast, Thalle Harade Satya Sankaran joins Pawan Srinath to talk about how non-motorized transport needs new thinking, behavior, policy, infrastructure, action, and more. On Shunyavan, Shiladitya and I talked to Matthew Scott Heller. Matthew is the Chief Innovation Officer at Alex Therapeutics. We have a really interesting conversation about how their new app is helping people change their habits. On KBCD, Sunitra and Farhad discuss how workplaces can become queer-friendly and how they confront their homophobic colleagues. On IVM Likes, IVM staffers Jude, Ritika and Madhuri talk about pop culture that moved them and made them more empathetic as people. They also recommend some really cool things that you can check out. Thanks, and we hope to see you again soon.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.